Few months ago, I got myself the Gigabyte RTX 4060 low profile, and to use the card, I bought the LZMOD A24-V5 case, which is designed to be used with low profile PCIe cards. I got the case from Taobao by using Superbuy, and it took a month to get to my doorstep. The case came without any instructions, so I had to figure out myself how to properly install the components. I purchased two 80x15 fans from Thermalright to use as exhaust fans at the top panel, and if you do the same, you need to buy some long M3 screws, as the case only came with soft screws for 80x10 fans. However, I could only use one 80x15 fan as the second one would interfere with the ESP cable clip. This could be avoidable if you use a slimmer fan for that position. There are three positions to install the fans. As I only used one fan, and to make it more center, the panel could be rotated like this. After installing the fan, the motherboard would go in next. I am using the IS55 cooler from the last video, and if you want, you can use a thicker 120mm fan for the heatsink, as this case supports up to 70mm cooler. Next is installing the power supply. This can only be done after installing the motherboard. For demonstration purposes, I am doing it outside the case to show you the step properly. First, there are two pre-installed standoffs that need replacing. You can see them by locating the two marks engraved on the panel. I am not sure why they are there in the first place, but they need to be removed. In the accessory bag, you would find two taller standoffs, which are the correct size for the build. Not sure what I should call this, so I just call it headless screw. Anyway, we grab two and install them at the two engraved marks. The case comes with 4 brass standoffs, 2 long and 2 short. We grab the 2 long standoffs, this bracket, and two 12mm M3 screws. Then we screw the bracket onto this standoff as tight as possible. The screw did not go all the way through, but that is completely fine, as we want the bracket to be loose like that. These two standoffs are installed on the headless screws, which were put on in the previous step. Next, we grab this bar, which is used to hold 1 to 2 2.5-inch drives. If you don't use any drive, the short brass standoffs are used instead. If you have those drives, these standoffs are not needed. You can see here that the length of the standoffs is the same as the width of the drive. Again, for demonstration, I used the standoffs here, but for my build, I used the two 2.5-inch SSDs. After securing the two brass standoffs, the bracket can be mounted to the case like this. If you look closer, you can see the left side is longer and the right side is shorter, so make sure the bracket is installed like this. Next, grab the PSU mounting bracket and install the flex power supply. For people who are new to the channel, this is the Enhance 600W PSU that I have been using for years with many builds. The PSU bracket is then inserted into the slot right here. After that, we can secure the power supply by placing the loose brackets over it and fastening them with two M3 screws. This is a very smart way to install a power supply, and it really held the PSU in place even though I tried to shake it around. Again, you need to install the fans and the motherboard before installing the long brass standoffs, otherwise they would block your motherboard. This is the next step that needs to be done before inserting the flex power supply, which is installing the extension cable. On the tail, you can see the N and L indicator, so the left cable will be connected to the L on the tail, and the right side will be connected to the N on the tail. Of course, middle cable go to the middle plug. The cables need to be routed through the mounting hole to connect to the tail plugs. After that, the tail is secured by simply pushing it through the mounting hole. The cable can now be plugged into your flex power supply. Before installing the power supply, we should insert the front I/O, the ESP, and the 24-pin cable into the motherboard. Then the PSU can now be secured into the case like I showed you before. And here you can see I have two 2.5-inch SSDs right next to it. I could now plug all the cables into the power supply. Having a modular PSU made everything much easier for routing and managing the cables. Last but not least is our low-profile RTX 4060. Of course, you need to install its low-profile bracket first. While the GPU is still outside, connect the power cable into the card. The card holder would prevent us from installing, so we need to unscrew it from the case. The card can now be inserted into the PCIe slot. There were many cables next to the card, so I had to use a screwdriver to move them out of the way. After the card is fully seated, we can secure it with the holder. Make sure to screw the card into the holder, or the card will flex when you plug the display cables in. Don't ask me why I knew it. Last step is sticking some feet to the bottom panel to complete the build. The build is now completed. It is not the smallest, but the small footprint makes the case much slimmer than many smaller cases, which makes it easier to carry. The build quality is superb as the case is very sturdy. Also, if you want to use this as a home theater PC, you can lay it down like this and put the machine under your TV. I think it looks pretty nice in this orientation, but there is no benefit in temperature. In the video which I reviewed the RTX 4060, I limited the power of the card to 90%, which lowered the temperature and kept the fans from being too loud. This time, I tried undervolting to keep it running cooler without lowering the clock speed. I set it to 2715 MHz at my favorite 925 mV. In Cyberpunk 2077, at 1080p with DLSS set to quality, the graphics was set to high and ultra as we have frame generation, and the frame rate was around 80 to 100 FPS, with the effective clock speed was around 2670 MHz, which is 100 MHz higher than when I was using power limit. But the GPU power consumption is just under 95 watts, so undervolting makes this RTX 4060 run more efficiently. The temperature is pretty good as the hotspot was just around 80 degrees. In my last video, I showed you how this card performing in 1440p and it did struggle a bit, but if we use it at 1080p, the experience would be much smoother. Let's take a look at another newer title. I swore to myself that I would never spend a single dime on any Ubisoft's newer games, so I got this Assassin's Creed Mirage for free. The story and the parkour of this game are completely trash, but it has good graphics. At 1080p with ultra high settings, you can see this resolution is perfect for this card. This game is not as intense as Cyberpunk, so you can crank up the settings if you really want. For the CPU in gaming, the average temperature is 75 degrees and the max is 90 degrees, which is as expected. The single small 80mm fan pulls a lot of heat out of the case. Let's listen to the noise of the system under load. Picking up this case does not make me worry about the flexing panels, and that gives me more confidence on my components being protected, especially if you travel. This fits in my current backpack, but I am looking for a separated bag for it, so if you have any suggestion, please let me know. I just brought it with me on a trip, and it was perfect as I know my components were safe. 10 out of 10, and I will do it again on my upcoming trip to California. By the time I am making this video, it seems ASUS will release an RTX 4060 low profile. However, people suspect that the PCB is longer than the Gigabyte, so once you plug the cable into the card, it will not fit in this case. I do think so, because we barely have enough space here. If you want to pick up the LZMOD A24-V5 or the Gigabyte RTX 4060 low profile, please check the link in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.